Friday, April 1st, the Super Show is at Gillies in Dallas. I have Eric Bischoff with me here. Conrad Thompson, Eric, William Regal, Jeff Hardy. Quite the panel for the Super Show. There's a ton of stuff going on this week. William Regal and Jeff Hardy are, two really hot names in the wrestling industry for their own respective reasons right now. What are you looking forward to most about this week and getting to share a stage with them again?
Well, the week is, WrestleMania week is, it's a special week for people in the wrestling business and fans and everything in between. So it's, the energy is always high. There's so much going on. Somebody showed me a list of all the different events that are taking place this weekend in Dallas. And I don't know, I didn't count, but I think there's at least 18 or 20 different events going on kind of simultaneously throughout the weekend. So it's busy and it's fun energy. It's kind of like Super Bowl week, really, for football fans. As far as being on stage, I've got the best seat in the house, man. I'll have a seat right there, front and center, and be able to listen to some great stories and perspectives. You look at, I still call him Steven Regal. I don't know if it's Steven or William. I can't keep track, but for me, it's Steven. What a fascinating man. He has probably got a more interesting history and perspective in many ways on professional wrestling because of his travels. He's wrestled all over the world. He started wrestling at such a young age in a different style of wrestling. His experiences are so unique that I'm really looking forward to hearing him and talk about some of those experiences. Jeff Hardy, Jeff is such a fascinating character. He's been front and center in a very high profile way for so long. He's had his challenges, his ups, his downs, the amazing things he's accomplished in the ring. And I'm anxious to see where he's at, where his head is at, what his perspective is now at this stage of his career. So, like I said, I've got the best seat in the house, man. I can't wait.
Yeah. I know people, there's obvious topics that people are going to want to hear about. Maybe they've already talked about in the past, but you mentioned calling him Steven Regal. Like, that's the stuff, like that's the deep cut stuff. I'm hoping that, we get a chance to hear the Blue Bloods and WCW. And then, he came back for a run in between those, the two WWE runs. Any fond memories of working with him back then?
I didn't work a lot directly with Steve. Keep in mind, I really didn't get involved too much in creative until really 95. And even then it was minimal, but it wasn't until 96 and 97 that I really kind of did a deep dive in creative. So I didn't work a lot with Steven / William, but certainly got to know him fairly well, on a personal level. We had our challenges from time to time, but got through it and have a tremendous amount of respect for him. So I'm anxious to hear his take on that period. It's a funny thing, Bill. People assume because at one point in time I was running WCW, therefore I had my fingerprints on all aspects of the business. And I really didn't. It was a big company. And there were a lot of things going on that while I was responsible for in many respects, I wasn't involved with on a day-to-day perspective. So there's people that were involved with the different aspects of WCW that had a much different perspective of things than I did. And I'm always interested in hearing those perspectives, and especially from Mr. Regal. That way I've covered all the bases. I'm anxious to hear what his eyes saw and what he experienced during that period of time. So, like I said, it's a fascinating journey for me, man.
Doing a little bit of a deep dive recently. I know WrestleMania is like March, April, traditionally like, oh, that's the big event, but you were around for Uncensored and Spring Stampede in, many years for WCW. But when you and I last talked, we talked a little bit about Road Wild and feeling like the need to expand the pay-per-view calendar. Where'd the idea for Spring Stampede come? Because that was around, and I don't want to say you were in control again, like you just kind of mentioned, but where'd the concept for Spring Stampede come from?
I don't know, Bill. It kind of existed prior to me having control over pay-per-views and getting involved in the branding of them and naming of them. I kind of guess it was a Dusty Rhodes theme, given the nature of it. That would be my guess. I remember being a talent, an announcer at a Spring Stampede or two before I really got involved in management. So I would, if I had to guess, I'd guess Dusty.
Looking at, 97, 98, those events are still looked at with, a lot of fond memories. It had Diamond Dallas Page and Randy Savage in 97, 25th anniversary of that match, a feud that put DDP on the map. So how do you evaluate, a branding from a branding perspective with an event like that?
Well, you just get different ideas. It started with, it was driven, the addition of pay-per-views. When I took over WCW, we had 4 pay-per-views a year. Could be wrong. I think it was 4. And at the time, WCW was hemorrhaging money before I came into management, and certainly once I took over. And we went through a cost-cutting phase. We just cut out the house shows because they were losing money. Every time we left the house, so to speak, to go do a house show, we lost money in the process. So it was like, okay, well, let's quit doing that for a while. Let's put our resources into the television product, create a demand for it, and then tour it, as opposed to just adding house shows. So it was, a combination of cost cutting and then trying to find revenue opportunities. And again, back in that period of time, WCW had no licensing, had no merchandising, had really we didn't even have television licensing, by the way, which is what people today are living off of. It's the core revenue stream for WWE and AEW. Well, we didn't have that. So the only thing that we had control over and could make more money on was pay-per-views. So adding pay-per-views was more of a necessity than it was anything else. And once we decided, okay, when should we add a pay-per-view? How many should we add? Then it was kind of like, okay, what should we theme it? What do we call it? And that was more of a collaborative. Sharon Sadello, Mike Weber would have been involved in that. People in the office might have had ideas. It was very much a collaborative process.
It's funny how things work out. It was born out of necessity, and even today, the 2 big companies, WWE and AEW, they're not really touring. It's a television production. And that obviously came because of a completely different reason with the pandemic. But it's kind of funny how things, and people say in the wrestling business, it's cyclical.
Well, you know what? I don't know if you saw it today. It was just posted today. But as a result of, I guess it's some discovery or some legal action that WWE is involved in, they posted today their tour schedule for the rest of 22 and I think even into 23. Oh, they're very much a touring company again.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many events. I couldn't count them. There were too many there for me to take the time to count, but sounds to me or looks to me like they're going to get back to touring a lot more than they have in the last 2 or 3 years for obvious reasons.
Yeah. And I think there's more importance on those events too. Like they're bringing back Saturday night's main event and Sunday Stunner, trying to make those events feel more important. But in the last year, you saw really it was a very heavy reliance on televised events and, limiting the schedule. It's not the 6 days a week, 350 days a year that, you heard about in the past. So, I know a couple fans I've talked to are quite happy about that, but, thought it was interesting how, the television cycle has changed, but yet the more things change, the more some things stay the same.
Yeah. Even when I was in WWE last, for a couple months in 2019, as a director of SmackDown, I wasn't involved in the live event side of the business, but obviously you would hear a lot about it. And I was privileged to some of the discussions about it. And the WWE live event business, even in 2019, obviously pre-pandemic, quite a bit, we're not doing that well. It was a struggle. So once the pandemic hit, somebody asked me, what do you think will ever happen to WWE live events? And I suggested what made sense to me, at least, would be once touring started up again, to make whatever live events happen feel much more special, to do the best you could do at bringing as many bells and whistles as you can to those live events, because historically the challenge has always been putting forth a live event that kind of looks and feels like the television show. And, so much emphasis has gone into production values and stages and pyro and lighting and so many of the things that make watching, Monday Night Raw or even AEW, a really cool television experience. Then when you go to the live event, you don't get any of that. It's kind of dark and dingy, and there's no pyro, and there's, the music is, maybe it's there, it's so. No staging to speak of. It's a kind of a stark contrast to what you would expect at a television event. So it makes sense to me that they would reduce the number of events, but yet put more resources into them so that the live experience at least comes close to what you would expect it would, on a television show.
Yeah. And I think for many years, there was that stigma when you say house show. It was, okay, not even live event, and it was house show. Okay, here's what you could expect. You mentioned a couple of the things production wise, but then there's always this idea like, okay, nothing's going to happen. Nothing's going to advance the story. So when I saw that, and I think it first started in June or July, whenever they announced that first stretch of events, it definitely felt different. It was a lot of televised stuff, and then there was a couple bigger arenas mixed in, and then John Cena's coming back and different stuff. Like Trish Stratus was in Canada this past weekend, and she hosted the show. Like it's not going to be full scale Raw and SmackDown every week, but there's something there a little bit more than you would have gotten in the past.
And I think that it has to be that way. When wrestling's hot, when it's smoking red hot, you're selling out, live events all over the country, you can get away with, fewer bells and whistles, so to speak. But when you're competing, and when it gets soft and the audience is kind of acclimated to themselves to the idea that, well, it's a house show, nothing's really going to happen, nothing really special, no bells, no whistles, I think I'll just pass. Once that sets in, you've got to work pretty hard to dig yourself out of that. And I think hopefully that's what we're seeing now, because it'll re-energize the live event in the touring model again. And the business needs that. The talent needs it. I'm sure there's some talent that would tell you they don't need it, but they really do. You need to stay active. You need to be able to go out in front of a live audience without the television cameras there, and try new things and play with some ideas and ad-lib some things that you're not able to do on television, because that's how you find the magic. That's how you find an idea that, okay, that worked for this live audience. I'm going to integrate it into television. Otherwise, if all you're doing is wrestling television matches, you're not taking too many chances. You're not taking risks. You're not doing anything new and exciting. You're doing what you can do well. And you've got a limited amount of time to do it, because you got a 3-minute match or a 6-minute match, or if you're lucky on television, a 10-minute match. Kind of hard to develop new material. It's a little bit like I don't know anything about stand-up comedy other than I enjoy it. And I know a few stand-up comedians, but when they're working on new material, they're playing in small little comedy clubs with 50 people, 75 people, working on that material, trying to find a way to make things work and tweaking it. And then when they finally get it all worked out, they'll take it to a bigger stage. And it's the same is true with wrestling, man. You've got to go out there and work through your stuff and try new things and experiment in a non-televised arena to keep upping your game. So it'll be good for everybody.
How long are you sticking around in Dallas? You'll be there Friday.
I'm going to leave Sunday. I've got so much going on this month. And like I said, I've been traveling for really the last 2 weeks, home for a couple of days, gone for another week. So I'm going to get out Sunday, I hope, and try to drill down and take care of some business here.
Will you be paying attention to Steve Austin's return?
Of course. I wanted to go to that. I wanted to be at ringside for that, but I just can't be. I'm so happy for Steve and for Kevin. Come on, Kevin. Good for you, brother. You earned it. You deserve it. And it's going to be such a great moment. I'm not envious in a way, but I'm living vicariously through Kevin because I know how exciting it'll be for him. He's such a cool guy, just a great person and a professional and a great talent.
I know a lot of people don't really know what to call it, confrontation, match, fight, but I think you hit the nail on the head. It's going to be an incredible moment. It's not him opening the show. It's not, and there was nothing, like the WrestleMania 30 moment where he shared the ring with Hogan and The Rock. That was a great moment for those, different generations and stuff, but this, you don't know what to expect. Like, you haven't seen him in a ring in nearly 20 years. And will it be a match? Will it be a fight? There's all sorts of variables to think about before we even get there. And that's just night one.
I've seen pictures of Steve over the last couple of weeks, and he looks like he's in phenomenal shape, man. He looks 20 years younger. He's got some size on him, but he looks lean and like he's been doing CrossFit and he looks like a machine. So whatever it is, it doesn't matter to me. It's the moment, whether it's a match or a confrontation or he hits a ring full of stunners on somebody. I don't care. It'll just be a glorious moment for the fans and for Steve and Kevin.
Yeah. Anything else you're looking forward to particularly this weekend? I know you have your own event. You have that we just touched on. Anything else you have your eye on?
Not really. No one particular event. Obviously, the Hall of Fame. I've always loved the Hall. I've always thought that the Hall of Fame was the best part of WrestleMania weekend for me. Because the emotions are real. It's the culmination of many people's wrestling career, or the moment within their wrestling careers. And it's so honest and real and emotional that I always enjoy it. Always enjoy it. So I'll be, and especially this year with Undertaker, the Steiner brothers now, being inducted. That was awesome. Conrad and I speculated about that on 83 Weeks a couple of weeks ago, but didn't think it was going to happen really, but it did. I'm really grateful for that, for them, and for the fans. Steiner brothers were kind of an important thing for a long time, in WCW and in WWE. So excited about that. And I live vicariously through everybody. I know what it feels like to be up on that stage and just to reach that moment where you can kind of go, wow, I actually did this. And I'm being inducted into a Hall of Fame with so many of the great names. some of them were people that I grew up watching as a wrestling fan long before I got into the business. And that's a cool thing, And so, like I said, I'll be living vicariously through the people that are getting inducted.
Scott Steiner with a live mic, certainly interesting.
I hope he gets that mic, and I fully expect he'll be a pro if he does. I don't expect him to, go off the reservation, so to speak, and go into the business for himself, as they say.
No,
I just the anticipation of it. Like, even if he doesn't do anything, even if like Rick does all the talking and just as they're ready to run out of time, because they usually only give you 3, 5, 6 minutes for those things. And I could just see, Rick doing the talking and, being the pro that Rick is, and then see Scott grab that mic right at the end and have him cut it off, just something, have fun with it,
Yeah. Yeah. I've talked to him, interviews, and they were not in character, if you want to look at it that way, but he's he knows when to be a professional, and obviously there's that anticipation, but there's just so much to look forward to about that one. I think not a never say never one, but he was always that guy like, well, is it going to happen? And he's finally getting his,
And, well, and here's the thing with Scott, you never know, because he could show up and be calm and everything going smooth. And all it takes is somebody to piss him off, say the wrong thing, disrespect him in any way, shape, or form. Even if you didn't really disrespect him, but if he thinks you did, you get that other guy. You get the other side of Scott Steiner. So yeah, you never know. Could happen. But that's it. I'm looking forward to our own event. Like I said, being up on stage with those guys is a blast. We've got Casio Kid. He doesn't get a lot of press, but great stand-up comedian. Used to work for Jay Leno, with Jay Leno out in LA. He's done a lot of comedy. He was on tour with Ron White. I think he opened up with Ron White for a while back, a couple months ago. Great comedian. He's going to be on stage and open things up for us. And I always tell people, if you've never seen Casio Kid, here's your warning. If you've got, any kind of heart condition, if you have weak intercourse strength, irritable bowel syndrome, any of those, physical ailments, be careful about this show because the laughter could put you in a hospital. He's that funny. But I always look forward to Casio, and it kind of sets a tone for the rest of the show. You look at these live events we do, they're kind of a combination of, serious Q&A, stand-up comedy, storytelling, all kind of wrapped up in one. So that's what I'm really looking forward to the most.
Yeah. Anybody that is in Dallas wants to check it out, tickets are still available. If not, you can watch the official pay-per-view live stream on Fight Friday, April 1st. Supershow live, as I mentioned. Eric, Conrad Thompson, Jeff Hardy, William Regal, and Jeff Jarrett will be there too. So plenty to look forward to. Thanks as always for the time. I'm glad we got a chance to catch up, and hopefully we'll get to do this when I can be in town to see it. I'm itching to get back to a live show.
All right. Well, I look forward to it, Bill. And thank you for this opportunity to talk about our show. And if anybody's looking for tickets, it's supershowlive.com. We still got some VIP tickets left, and that's kind of a cool thing. A lot of special bonus items go along with that. But yeah, check it out. And like Bill said, if not able to be in Dallas, check us out on Fight TV, Super Show Live.